Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the other side of cyber. I am your host, James Azar, joining me my magnificent co-host from the other side of the world, JJ.
Hey, JJ. Hey, peeps and geeks. How you going? Welcome. We're so happy that you're here for our friends joining us live from America. I can hear that echo again. Geez, we're getting dolphins, my friends. We are getting dolphins every single time. If you don't know what dolphins are, you might need to go back for a few episodes. But welcome anyhow for those of you guys on LinkedIn Live, watching us or listening to us for the dulcet tones of James Azar on the other side of the world and myself, Jacqueline Jane. We're here to talk the other side of cyber. What are we talking about today, James?
So we're talking about the cybersecurity workforce skill shortage, which is a very, very fun topic because there's a lot of people spreading a lot of information about it, and I'm kind of curious to know what people think. I'm very curious about it.
So when I hear about it, when I hear about this so-called skills shortage, I've always been a little bit, is it really? Because whenever I've asked someone in the know, a CISO or someone who's actually hiring or in the strategy planning world when it comes to this, they don't seem to be able to answer me directly and say, okay, we're looking for skills in these 5 areas or nothing. It just says we have a broad skills shortage. And you've got some theories on that, James, of where the actual shortages are. So I'd love to hear that. What are they?
You know, so I think before we get into what they are, right, let's just kind of understand that cybersecurity, while fairly new in the public domain, is not new in the enterprise and business domain or the government domain for that matter.
Okay.
Cybersecurity has relatively been the derivative of IT.
Yep.
So that creates a little bit of an interesting kind of determination that you should know IT to be in cybersecurity. And I think that's the biggest piece of misinformation that exists in the cybersecurity workspace. So for those tuning in, watching us live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, welcome to the show. You can comment our show. So if you're going back before we get into today's show, YouTube took down last week's video because we apparently spoke of COVID-19 vaccine scams, and apparently we need to let the scammers keep scamming people.
Yep.
So we appealed it with YouTube. We won our first appeal, and then they took it down again, and we lost our second appeal. And since it's the YouTube gods, there's no Supreme Court to go to at this point. We're at the mercy. So having said that, we're very careful of what we say on the show. So all opinion on the show are our own, number one. It's very important to note. Number two, we're not going down the conspiracy rabbit hole. It's very important to note. And number three, we want to have free and open debate.
Yes, we do.
And that's why we do a clubhouse every Monday at 10 p.m. Sydney time. Right?
Correct. 9 p.m.
9 p.m.? I don't know. I can't tell the time difference anymore. I know 6 a.m. in Atlanta.
You would think people that by now, two apparently professional, intelligent adults could work out the time difference that we deal with each other every single week, multiple times, and we still can't work it out. I don't know. It's just one of those wonderful things.
Time difference is time difference.
Drives me crazy. It should be simple. It shouldn't be this hard. All right, let me find out. Okay, it is 9:30 p.m. on my time, which is Adelaide time, therefore makes it 10 p.m. Sydney time. You are correct.
I knew I was right.
He was right. So please.
He just said it live on the show.
5 minutes and 48 seconds into the show, JJ said those magic words.
You are right.
James,
so at this point, I am winning in life. And there's nothing else I need to do. I'm just going to go enjoy my espresso. JJ, the show's all yours. On this high note, we're calling it a night, folks.
No, we're not, James. No, we're not. Look, it's an interesting thing because, as James just mentioned, that one of the biggest myths about the cybersecurity skills shortage is you need to be in IT to be in cyber. If that was the case, I wouldn't be here, because I did not find myself in this position that I'm in now, doing what I do with the company I work with, collaborating with the likes of Mr. James J. Azar. I didn't come to that in IT. For me, it was totally different. I came through the 20 years in sales and marketing, in communication, in training, in organizational development, and a whole different way to come through. Technology's always been in my world, as it is with most people, and potentially I'm a geek. However, I don't have those cyber qualifications that you would normally find for someone working in cybersecurity. Now, if I wanted to work as work in a SOC, then I would need to have some form of, proper training to be able to do that. Or if I wanted to be a red teamer or a pen tester or whatever it is, so many other roles, an analyst, I'd need to have some form of experience in that. But for me, it's communication. So that's why I'm here. It's very interesting. What was your path to cyber, James?
I was an entrepreneur. I started a business, started several businesses, sold 2 of them. And in the process of building my companies, cybersecurity became an integral part of what we did. And being that I am a very suspicious person of anyone who tries to tell me something I don't understand, I self-educated myself on cyber. Vetted a few experts to guide me through.
Yep.
And now, over a decade later, all I want to do is cyber.
Do you think that the people who came into the world of cyber, say 10 years ago, like yourself, it was a whole different ballgame? So you could come in with enthusiasm, experience.
No, you can do that now. Look,
that seems to be the issue. People say you can't. I disagree.
So let's demystify that, right? Because I think that's demystify, a new buzzword, by the way. We're demystifying things.
We need special effects.
Yeah, we do. We do. We do need special effects. We need a producer for the show. So if you want to volunteer and be our producer, we would greatly appreciate it as well. So let's demystify that discussion right there, right?
Okay.
So anyone can make it into cyber, no matter what. It just takes the right corporate culture and leadership to give you a chance to get in. But it also takes preparation, willingness, perseverance on your end to make it there.
Yeah, so some self-learning. Actually step into it.
A lot of self-learning.
And there's a lot of free resources available, and some, in my opinion, very inexpensive, high-level education online that everybody can do to understand the different elements of cyber and what job you might want to do. There's so many people in cyber willing to talk and help and mentor, just answer questions. I know you do a lot of that, James, to be able to support people looking to get into cyber.
Yeah, so I do that every Thursday and Friday.
Tell us about that.
I was about to sneeze. Luckily, that stopped. Oh. My allergies are like acting up. My eyes are not red because I am tired, even though the time here is 2:10 a.m. It's not. I've slept. I've woken up. I've taken a shower. Today I work all through. I've got the Tech Town Square tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern with Eddie and I. So I literally go from 1:30 a.m. today until about 10 p.m. my time. That's my work day today. Yep. So,
and folks, that's how much he's dedicated to the APAC region. This Australia, New Zealand, India, Singapore. I can't think of anybody else right now. Come on, brain. Malaysia.
No, your brain's fine. Indonesia, a lot of great places, right? So,
yes, everyone in APAC.
The Philippines.
Yes.
A lot of great nations with a lot of awesome friends in those places, and my time spent in the Asia Pacific. So I will say this, that On Thursdays, I do a CISO Thursday show with my friends over at Breaking Into Cybersecurity, Renee and Chris, and that's at 1 p.m. Eastern. So for the APAC folks, that's a little late, but maybe what we'll do is we'll try to bring one of them on the show, maybe through Clubhouse on Mondays, because that might be a little bit more convenient to talk a little bit about what we do there. And then on Fridays, I do a AMA. So kind of like an Ask Me Anything, and typically it's around, breaking into cyber or getting started or whatnot. I post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, by the way, on the idea of just really challenging the narrative that you need a college degree to get into cyber. You don't really need a college degree. You need a passion. And I think the passion is the number one driver. Even on the CISO Talk podcast, and I know I'm name dropping a bunch of my other shows here, and I apologize.
Okay.
But even on the CISO Talk podcast, when I ask CISOs, what's the number one thing you look for when you're trying to hire someone, they predominantly talk about passion and self-drive. So they're not really looking for you to have 17 certs. They're kind of looking to see, what's your home lab look like? What are you doing on the side? What projects are you involved with?
Yep.
Are you supporting anyone? Are you working as a part of a group on some larger challenge that exists? One of the things we're doing this year is the 221 and 2021 hiring challenge. So in January of this year, I wanted to get 10 people hired through LinkedIn. So beating the applicant tracking system. We met that goal.
Wow.
And Chris Fallon, one of the greatest people I know, he went, James, let's make it 221 people in 2021. Kind of the 0 out of 2021 and do 221 people in 2021. We have 200 volunteers doing CV reviews.
Wow.
And we've got over, I think, like 300 people who've submitted their CVs. And every day, I think we get 10 or 12 more people who submit their CVs into this project. So now that I've kind of said all of that, let me preface this. Being prepared with the right CV. So I take a lot of calls. And I'm going to stop after I say this, and JJ, and I'm going to let you chime in here. Yeah. I take a lot of calls with people who want to get into cyber. Yep. And one of my first questions is, what discipline of cybersecurity do you want to be in? And if they can answer that, then I say, go do some research. I'm going to take the time back for this call. I'm going to let you reschedule the time after you've done your research. But understand, it's like medicine. Like, I want to be a doctor. Great. What kind of doctor do you want to be? Oh, you mean I can't just be a doctor of everything?
No. Well, you can be a GP, but you still that is still a sort of specialization, being a general practitioner. So you would still know that's what you wanted to do.
Right.
Which is a good analogy.
Generally diagnostic.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that's a really good analogy to use in this conversation, because when we consider a doctor, if you want to specialize and be a brain surgeon, you need to do that first foundational medical degree that's years and years and years. And then on top of that, you're doing, I don't know whether it be another 2, 3, or 4 years specializing in the brain to be able to bring it all together. So there's so many different specialities and streams and things you could do for cyber. So it's a very good analogy to say you don't just wake up one day and decide you want to be a doctor. You want to get into cyber. Great. Well, what do you want to do? Have you had a look at what jobs are out there, what's available? And to give some context behind how this conversation came up about what are we going to talk about this week, there was an article that was released 2 days ago, or a few more actually, about new cybersecurity talent mapping tool that's been released here in Australia. So I'm reading directly from the article by Lyle Adriano, and this is from Insurance Business Australia. So credit to Lyle. Back we go. I got a happy scrolling finger. A platform that helps industry track the current state of the Australian cybersecurity job market has launched. So CyberSeek is an interactive mapping tool that provides real-time data on cybersecurity talent in Australia and the gap that exists in the sector. So it's funded through AusCyber and a few other organisations here in Australia. And all these people bring together all of their interests, all of their understanding, and it can be used by cyber professionals and job seekers, employers, educators, policymakers, and even students. I haven't gone into it. I haven't looked at it. But I thought to myself, that's interesting. How are we going to use something like this, and how is it going to help people? And it comes back to the apparent skill shortage. So, James, can you share with us, and just also for the people who might be joining us for the very first time today on the other side of cyber, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Our new format for our show is we do 30 minutes, of which we're halfway through, just over, talking about the topic at hand. Today is about the cyber skill shortage. And after that, we officially finish off a podcast, so to speak, and then move into live, still here, Q&A, anything you might have for our friends on LinkedIn or YouTube or anywhere else you're watching us at the moment. Or we'll continue just to banter ourselves and answer questions as they pop up for at least another 15 or 30 minutes, depending on what you guys need from us. So, James, I'm interested to ask and to know what jobs are actually in shortage at the moment and why.
So it's not what jobs are at a shortage at the moment. It's more of where does the skill gap, where's the largest gap? Meaning, what jobs are there less applicants per job opening than others? So when you look at the entry-level jobs, credit goes to Naomi Buckwalter for this one, because she did this a few months ago. She used the LinkedIn API and a bunch of data. And she was able to break down that for every entry-level cybersecurity job posted on LinkedIn, there was like 5 or 6 applicants for that job. While every mid-level managerial job had 0.4 applicants per job.
Okay.
So this is a two-sprung kind of challenge. One, a lot of people want to go to entry level, especially mid-career folks. So mid-career folks, mid-career change folks, people who, spent, like you, 20 years in marketing and HR and sales and go, you know what, I want to go into cyber, think that I have to start at ground zero. No, you don't have to start at ground zero. That's a negative. That's a false. You're never going to make it. You're never going to make it because your CV is going to have 20 years of experience on it and not 4.
But there's transferable skills that come from those 20 years that can't be found in tech in many instances.
Right. And so what a lot of people who I speak with who are, in their 30s or 40s or 50s, and they go, I want to transition into cyber. I want to be, I come from this background. I've done, auditing. I've done consulting. I've done marketing. I've done HR. I've done all these different things. Is you've been doing that for 20 years.
Yep.
You're a threat at an entry-level role. You're overqualified.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So understand that the jobs where they have a 0.4 applicants for is where you fit. Now, what you have to prove is the technological know-how to lead a team. And so that's why the discipline that you choose and the roles that you apply for are very important. So if you look at, for example, I always tell people that come from marketing and sales, don't go technical, go GRC. GRC stands for governance, risk, and compliance.
Yep.
So it's more of a policy role.
Yep.
Okay, those are great roles. You don't need to be heavily technical. You need some basic technical skills so you can do like a security plus cert. Those work just fine. You can do all kinds of stuff, from there, and those are just perfectly okay to do.
Yeah.
And and grow it, and apply for that mid-level range job, or go work at one of the big 4, big 10 accounting firms in an entry level role there, because you have the skills and they pretty much have a process. So it's kind of like, McDonald's or any fast food. It's kind of like it's not the people, it's how you train the people into the role. And here we go, it's like Chick-fil-A, and there's no Chick-fil-A in Australia. So for a lot of you of my Aussie friends now, you're going to be like, what's Chick-fil-A? And it's probably the best chicken sandwich on planet Earth, and I will dare you on that one.
I haven't tried one.
Well, now that the skies are slowly opening it up and you come back to the States, when you're here, we'll go get Chick-fil-A.
Okay, that sounds good.
So Chick-fil-A has the best chicken sandwich. Now, you can go to Chick-fil-A any time of day. There's a 10-15 car line to get through. But that line, even with 10 or 15 cars, is 5 minutes, no matter what. Moves quick. Like if Chick-fil-A was in charge of vaccine rollout, 50% of the population would be vaccinated by now.
Can you believe, my friends, that we are, and one thing I love about the other side of cyber is you are guaranteed random tangents. And today's tangent is, well, the show is not brought to you by Chick-fil-A. We would love that, but it isn't. So it is just one of those anecdotal things. Sandwiches, chicken sandwiches.
Yeah, but those guys make chicken sandwiches like no one's business.
Do they make them fresh? So they've got the process, they've got everything.
Fresh, they've got the process, everything. And they never, in my 20 years of eating at Chick-fil-A, I think there's only one time where they messed up my order.
Wow. So I know all our friends now are saying, well, what has this got to do with cyber, James?
So I'll explain. They have a process in place. So it doesn't matter who they hire. People come in, they're properly trained to go in, they start to do the job works. Governance, risk, and compliance is the same thing. When you go work for a Big 10 firm, there's a process in place. There's an Excel spreadsheet, there's a questionnaire, there's all these things. So you get about a year or two of an experience under your belt, and then you're able to go and do it in a managerial role at another company.
Yep.
And you've got the Big 4 experience or the big accounting firm experience around it.
That is so true. And there's something else that I have some friends in the change management area and the organizational development areas. And I've been saying to them for quite a while now in teaching, please have a look at moving into cyber. Their skills are needed, because we're all about changing the culture of the individual and the organization to keep us all safe online. Because at the end of the day, that's what I do. And I know you're the same, James. It's all about making sure we're all safe online and aware of what's going on. You need those skills that come with change managers who can partner up with people in IT, develop their knowledge. Because what people like change managers or in education or organizational development, learning and development, these people look at the whole organization to implement a change, which takes time, and they will become subject matter experts in a very short period of time. So to move into the cyber world, it'd be such a great benefit, even HR, people to move into cyber to help support what's going on. Because something else I read is a lot of issues are coming because HR put together, or people and culture, people environment, whatever you call it in where you work, they put together these job descriptions that are ridiculous, because the IT guys have said we need this role, and they haven't given enough context or information about what they actually need in the role. And I've seen some hilarious memes where people have asked for 10 years experience in something, and the product's only been out for a few years. I know you've had a similar bit of information come by you as well. So, we've got to work together and take these transferable skills around the place. Finance, go talk to tech and say, hey, how can I play here? There's a need for that diversity of thought in the world of cyber, in my humble opinion, and I'm off my soapbox.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those watching us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, you can comment. We'll gladly be taking your questions here in a few minutes and addressing kind of if you have questions, comments, if you've been through a story where you've tried to break in and you've been unsuccessful, we also want to hear about that. I think that's really critically as important as anything else. Here's a few things to kind of as we end our audio podcast per se, here's a few things to keep in mind. If you don't have the passion for security, don't do it. It may seem like a lucrative career, but the burnout rate in security is real.
Yeah, it is.
More people burn out of cyber than any other job. I think we overtook medicine in 2020.
Yeah, well,
we overtook medicine in a pandemic.
And wow. Okay, let's just let that sink in for a minute. And this is a 24/7 job, people. Now, for me, it's totally different. But if a big news story broke and they needed commentary on it, they needed something great, come talk to me. However, there are people, and James will be able to give a million examples. In the world of tech, if you're a CISO, if you work in the cyber team and something happens, you will have to get up and go into the office or jump onto your machine, and it's all hands on deck until the issue has been solved. And is that why?
So that's predominantly why. The other aspect of it is this job never ends.
No.
And, we talk about the B word, right? Breach or hack. But I want to talk about the I word, incident.
Ooh, incident. I like that better. Yes, because I don't like to use the word hacker. I use cyber criminal and not breach. It's incident. Nice. I'm writing that down.
So a breach can only be ruled after a complete investigation has taken place
of an incident.
Of an incident. So when you talk about incidents, on average, a tier 1, tier 2 analyst will be investigating anywhere from 20 to 200 incidents an hour, depending on the organization.
Wow.
Let that sink in.
That's a lot. That's like having 100 in an hour, 100 people come to the ER, and you have to triage them. You need to work out who's going to go where. One person, maybe.
That's
or
like
a team.
A mass casualty situation every hour at the ER.
Yeah. And right on that point, can we see why somebody who can coordinate, like someone in a comms team in an organization? So if something happens outside of cyber, and it could be, I don't know, a product recall. A product recall takes place. The comms team, the marketing team, legal, even finance, will all come together, the exec team, and they will have a plan in place. And comms will take the lead on that, maybe even marketing. And they will put the plan together, coordinate what needs to happen, and get that information out. Cyber, what I've noticed, and James, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. When an incident occurs, they're the only ones. There doesn't seem to be a rush from anywhere else in the organization to come and help, to say, comms, all right, we're here, we'll do this, we'll do this. How do you need us to send an email out? What else do we need to do? It just seems to all that stress sits with the cyber team, the analyst. Is that a fair thing to say, or is that a 50-50?
No, that's not really true. So an analyst is really overworked. It's a very mundane job. The actions that they take are very repetitive. It's very robotic. It's like making a hamburger at McDonald's.
But if a breach did occur, if something did occur, like a major...
Right, but that's like a lunch rush at McDonald's.
Okay, wow.
Okay, so it'd be like, I'm making a hamburger. It's 2 buns, ketchup, mustard, hamburger, but, like the hamburger meat itself or the carton, the cardboard that they call hamburger meat. Pickle, onion, lettuce, tomatoes, close it up, put it in a box, ship it into the heating lamp, someone grabs it, puts it in a bag, etc. Right? But the idea of putting together a burger is very repetitive. It's there's not much thinking to it. It's, what is it? Big Mac? Okay.
Yep.
Right? So an analyst's job is pretty much like making a Big Mac. It's very repetitive. It's very boring.
Attention to detail, like they need to see certain things. They need to be able to make judgment.
They need to be able to do that. They need to be able to utilize good technical tools. They need to have a good know-how. It's an entry-level role to be a tier 1, tier 2 analyst, right?
It's Groundhog Day.
But yeah, but it's a very, very challenging role.
Okay.
A lot rests on those people. We saw over the weekend, you know, SolarWinds tried to blame an intern for their breach, which was just absolutely disgusting, and shame on them, really. That shows me just the lack of leadership in that organization, and the fact that the problems at SolarWinds didn't start with a sophisticated attacker, but started with very bad leadership and bad culture. And it's going to take him years to fix that. It's not going to be something that they're going to fix today or tomorrow. They have a serious corporate culture problem. So I know we're a little bit over the audio podcast time, but I don't care. I'm going to finish this, and then we'll kind of go into Q&A, and we'll keep going, and we'll cut this and edit it out at some point or another. All right. So the tier 1 jobs are very, very challenging. And the burnout rate there is higher than most stuff. And yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about the idea that you've got to be on call, and yeah, you're on call. And when there's an incident, and you know the incident is suspected to be severe, it's all hands on deck. When SolarWinds happened, you know, the notification kind of came on Friday. For those who don't know, I'm a Shabbat keeper, so I don't work on Friday and Saturday. I turn off my phone. I don't really answer emails. I don't work at all. Like, my phone has a custom setting on it for Shabbat where none of my emails work, none of my social media works. The only thing that comes through my phone is phone calls from my family.
Yep.
Only a few people are allowed to, I'll only answer messages from a few people and some messaging apps. So my staff knows this.
Did you get a contact with SolarWinds?
So my staff knew this, and they're like, someone needs to tell James.
Send a pigeon.
Well, who's going to drive to his house?
Yep.
Right, because I'm not going to answer my phone.
True. Yeah.
But come Saturday night, I Shabbat's over. I turn my phone back on. I see I've got a ton of messages, urgent, whatever.
Ping, 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 ping.
So, I jump on that, and now we got to go into triage mode, right? What's going on? What do we know? You start talking to the different partners you have within your cybersecurity organization, and those are, your top cybersecurity partners who you work with, who are really part of your overall cybersecurity strategy. You start to make phone calls to law enforcement, the relationships that you have there, in order to identify what things aren't being publicly made available, but you should know about.
Yeah.
And that can go on for 3-4 days. The people who dealt with SolarWinds, by the way, in companies like Microsoft or FireEye, they didn't have a Christmas. Even though the attack happened in early December, they're still in remediation, and we're in March.
And this is something people don't understand. It's not a 9-to-5 role. I don't know if there will be very many roles in cyber that would be 9-to-5. I can't even think of one, because it's all about your responding.
GRC is predominantly 9-to-5. So
okay,
even in an event, typical GRC stuff will typically come in from a strategy and remediation perspective in an incident response, but the technical roles are more hands-on.
Okay, and something just dawned on me. Every single week we have this excellent conversation. Bless you, James is sneezing for our people who, we're not on the podcast section, maybe not, but James just sneezed, so bless you, James.
Thank you.
When it comes to the people who are working and being able to get the support that they require, every time we talk about the other side of cyber, what we're going to do, we don't go into it in detail. It's just, what topic do you want to discuss? We do our research, and then we come together and have a chat. If we find something controversial or something really interesting, we'll share it, because that's what you do. You share your knowledge, and hence the birth of the other side of cyber. It all comes down to the human. And this, again, another topic comes down to that human, to have an understanding of what these roles are, and should a tier 1, tier 2 analyst only be able to do their job for a year or 6 months and then have to do something else? Because if they're having such burnout, it just doesn't make sense.
So that's a very interesting conversation, and one that I had a lot in 2020. So I gave a talk last year, and it was a talk among law enforcement people. So, and I made the argument that one of the challenges we have in cyber burnout is the same challenge that police officers have in police departments across not only the US, but the world. You're on a beat, you're on that same beat for a very long time. Predominantly when you're on a beat in a street or in a community, you know the problem people there. So there's a level of, I don't want to say prejudice, but there's a level of, oh, it's Crazy Mike again, right? We're getting a call about Crazy Mike.
Yep.
And so you tend to kind of view that a little, all right, Mike is drunk again. We're going to take Mike to the jail cell tonight. He'll, write out the liquor. He'll detox in the morning. We'll send him home.
Yep.
Right? Well, that causes a lot of burnout. And that's part of where you see sometimes police use excessive force or inequity in terms of treating different situations. And so the same applies in cyber. There's been many incidents where an analyst kind of wrote it off because he's been seeing the same thing and he's got burnout. So in our org, we like to do every 6 months, we like to do a rotation. So you kind of get out of that for 30 days. You go do something else for 30 days. You work across a different department in the business. Like you literally go work across a different department. So you become you'll become our cybersecurity guy with marketing. And for a month, you're going to follow and work with the marketing team. You're essentially, you don't even work with the cyber team. You're working with the marketing team. You're studying what they're doing.
Now, hold on. Can I just say there, having worked as a business partner for many years, that is the reason why whichever organization does that will succeed, because then they bring that knowledge back and say, marketing are doing these things. We need to be aware of that. They have issues when it comes to blah, blah, blah. How can we support that? And marketing will have, we had John here for the last month, and he opened our eyes to the importance of protecting our data and not leaving these passwords around, whatever it is. Just in conversation, and then you've built that connection between those two areas. That is gold. That is absolute gold. If more people did that, it'd be a better world in organizations large and small. So well done. That is just perfect.
So yes. So that's how you avoid burnout. So if cops did the same thing, if you took a cop off the street for 6 months and had him do something completely different for a month, and then you brought him back, he's probably going to be a little bit more fresh. Think about going on vacation, right? You go on holiday, you come back from holiday, even the old mundane stuff, it feels new if you've been gone long enough.
Yeah, but you're still using your skills. You're still involved. It's still something important going on. I love it.
So we need to kind of look and do the same in I think in that perspective, which is oftentimes a challenge for a lot of people because it means that I've got to try and do something else. And for a lot of leaders, they don't have the capacity. The corporate culture doesn't exist to allow the idea I just presented. There's inherent challenges in doing what I just said, which seems to be very simple. But do you have also the rotation of people that when you pull someone off a tier 1 role, you've got someone else who can do the job just as good, right?
Yeah, but that's another opportunity to bring in a graduate or someone who's considering a transition from something else into an analyst role. They'd need to have a buddy, I'm suspecting, because people who are listening, James is shaking his head. So no, you can't do that, not in that role.
So I'll explain why. An analyst role is kind of like your security guard at the door.
Okay, so they need
you got to have someone who knows how to identify a threat before a threat happens.
So how do they get there then? How does it?
So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take people who do other technical work and have them do an analyst role for a month. Even if they haven't, so they may have started their career 5 years ago working in an analyst role. They're now in, engineering or architecture or cloud security. I'll send them back to do an analyst role again for a month to get retrained, to kind of bring in a fresh perspective. They used to do it. What's different? What's changed? It helps. It helps do that. I rarely replace experienced people with inexperienced people because the risk to the business is too great. And I think that's very important for people to understand. Is a lot of times in cybersecurity, people want to go, well, just give me a chance. And you're like, let's weigh the risks. Well, no, I want to give you a chance, but of what? And that's why passion and desire to be in cyber is really, really important, JJ, right? Especially from a technology perspective, right? I'm not talking about the cybersecurity awareness piece or the,
there are roles. I get what you're saying. So if there were people listening now, watching us, or just, telepathically we'll get our messages, where would they start? If they wanted to be an analyst, where would they start? Because they can't just be an analyst. They've got to do something else. So what is the pathways to doing that role, for example?
Yeah, I mean, so someone commented, not directly on our feed, but it's my good buddy Tony Jarvis over in Australia. Tony, what is happening? Thank you so much, buddy, for watching. I did tag him when we started just for the sake of full disclosure, because I felt like Tony needed to hear this conversation. So Tony wrote here, cybersecurity skill shortage, what people call it when they can't find entry-level candidates for roles asking for 1 to 3 years of experience and a CISP, which requires 5 years of experience or more. And that's part of what is very challenging for a lot of people who look to break into cybersecurity. The definitions of the role aren't really properly defined. So the story I always like to use is the story of Kubernetes. So Kubernetes, which was bought by Google, was founded by a by an engineer, by a cloud engineer. And a company was looking to hire someone with Kubernetes experience. And they were like, we need someone with 12 years of Kubernetes experience. Well, Kubernetes has only been around for 8. So the guy who
therein lies your problem. How do you get that experience?
So the guy who applied for the role was the guy who invented Kubernetes.
Oh, God.
And the company that was hiring replied and said, you don't have enough years of experience in Kubernetes to do this job. And he literally replied to the HR person and said, with the Wikipedia page, with his name on it and the year it was invented.
And herein lies the thing. Someone's told HR what to do. HR gets the blame for that. But no one has actually pointed anything out.
No, negative. You're not going to defend HR here. I'm sorry, JJ. I'll tell you what it is. Here's where our biggest challenge is HR in cybersecurity. Because you know how every email that you send, typically IT has like on the bottom what I like to call the signature add-ons, like, if this mail is intended to the recipient, if you're not the recipient, please delete this email. Please consider this before printing this email. This is an external, right? HR does the same thing when you put out a job rec. And in most organizations, I'll write a job rec and I'll say, I need 2 years experience. I need no experience required. We'll train if you've got a security plus, right? And then they'll add job requirements, bachelor's degree. I don't give a shit if you got a bachelor's degree or not.
Okay. So I hear what you're saying and I validate what you're saying. That's important.
Oh God, here we go.
That is incorrect to do that. If you are the hiring manager and you know what you need, whatever organization that you've had that experience in did not have a proper business partnership going on, because I was never a HR business partner. I knew people who were. I worked with them. And they spent hours talking in relation, just one role. They'd sit for hours to understand it, and they would not put anything in. I won't name the company, but they would not put anything in that actually wasn't a requirement. My gut tells me that people will do that bachelor's degree, middle thing, because they don't want the hordes of people to come and apply that they have to go through. That is their issue. That is wrong.
Right, but that's the challenge.
Wrong.
So when I brought up 221 in 2021, the hashtag, so if you're looking for work, if you're watching or listening right now, you can go to LinkedIn, search the hashtag 221 in 2021. I'll put it up here on the screen here in just a second. All right.
I've written it down as well. 221 in 2021.
That's the hashtag. If you look it up on LinkedIn, you'll see a bunch of posts around it. You'll also see links where you can submit your CV for review. If you want to volunteer and help us, you can also do that. There's a link for volunteers to sign up and help. All right. One of the things we're trying to beat is the ATS system, the applicant tracking system, that I think is flawed. And like Tim Cook, who thinks that algorithms are evil, I think that ATS systems are evil. ATS systems are evil because they eliminate, if someone doesn't know how to write a CV but is very qualified, they essentially get them out of the role that they're very qualified to do. So now you take me, JJ, down the path where HR adds stuff to job recs.
And they should not. That is not their job.
But they add it because they go, well, the company requires anyone that works in IT to have at least a 4-year bachelor degree. That's a company requirement. So finally, over the last few weeks, there's been a movement that says we need to stop looking for college degrees in cybersecurity people because most good cyber people don't go to college.
Correct.
Yours truly here never finished college.
Same here.
So I personally agree with that movement because I think that colleges inundated. I think that colleges are predominantly, unless you're studying a real skill like medicine, law, accounting,
teaching.
They have degrees like liberal arts, which give you nothing in life. Zero benefits in a liberal arts degree. Unless you plan to be a homeless artist on the streets of Melbourne, on the boardwalk, drawing people as they're on dates, right in front of the Crown Hotel and casino. Like if that is your deal, then go get a liberal art degree, hang the degree right next to your street stand and tell everyone I'll charge you 10 Aussies to give you a fun, comic picture and do that all night, weather willing and street permit given, right, by the great city of Melbourne. So how
do we go? Because one of my biggest look, there's a lot of verticals I follow, a lot of my passions and things I want to get done. And one of them is to shift the mindset of the hiring process and the HR process when it comes to tech, because and for cyber especially, because there's so many synergies within an organization to start with. There could be people right there and then who already know the systems, the culture, etc., who you actually could bring in. Not all roles, some roles. And then if there are people who are borderline who apply, you'd rather have more people to talk to have a chat with and think, actually, you're not the best for this role, but you're probably going to be really good for this role, because it is such a fluid world that we're working in the world of cyber. And HR traditionally, I know there actually is a difference between the role of HR over in the States and in Australia. It is very different. I've come to learn that over the last couple of years. But when it comes to hiring, there needs to be a revamp and a whole refresh in that whole approach, because it is just not feasible anymore to do that type of thing. It's just not okay. It's like going to the doctor and they say, okay, well, here's your script for the tablets we think you need. You go to the chemist and the chemist gives you something totally different because they think you need it. You can't do that. This is... You know who you need, and why should someone change that? That's just not okay.
I mean, we see that. We see that. That's one of the challenges. The other one is beyond HR. It's within the organization itself, right? Within the leadership of the org, where they don't invest in training, and that goes right to SolarWinds blaming an intern.
Yeah.
So how many breakdowns existed right then and there?
Oh, look, James, when I read that headline, I was furious, and most people would have been furious in the world of cyber to read that. Tech, Infosec, cyber, whatever you want to say, because that password That means no one was informed of the correct passwords to use, and they wouldn't have created it. All the things that would have gone through your mind, my mind, and to blame someone for their behavior.
Well, you're blaming an intern. You're blaming an intern for setting a password that
they shouldn't be setting passwords.
Number one, but let's say you gave him the job to do, right? Because guess what? Business happens. Not everything goes by the book. Okay? So can we start with that? Can we just start with the idea that okay.
Where's the password manager tool?
Let's ignore all of that for a second. Okay? Let's ignore all of that for a second. SolarWinds aren't exactly known for being the most technologically advanced organization. All right? So let's just go with the basic human element aspect of it.
Okay.
I have an intern. Does anything my intern do go unsupervised or unchecked?
No, I would say no. It shouldn't.
Where's your peer review? Where's your intern mentor? Where are all those people that are supposed to be supervising the intern in the work he does?
And where was his or her training of induction about policies in relation to that?
So a very, to me, that's a very challenging aspect of this whole. It's a very challenging aspect of this whole situation, which is you can't let you can't throw an intern under the bus.
Nope.
Expect the intern to do something, right? And then blame him in front of the U.S. Congress and Senate. How bad does that make you look?
Very petty. It's very...
Now, their PR team tried to do crisis management in the aftermath of that statement, but it's too late.
Yep.
Right.
Horse bolted.
Right. I mean that. And again, I'm not trying to victimize SolarWinds for being a victim of a crime. Simply pointing out that as a victim, right, and as a leader. So when something goes wrong in my organization, it's a mistake of someone in my team. I don't go to my board and say, it was the mistake of Rich. I don't have anyone by the name of Rich on my team, so I feel confident in using that name. So it was the mistake of Rich. And, we fired Rich. We're going to address it. No. My team made a mistake.
We've dealt with it.
Starts with me. We're dealing with it. The person who made this mistake, not to be named, right? Because I don't want to hinder their career opportunities.
No, because
advancement opportunities. Because especially if it's their first mistake, right? So some people make one mistake, but that mistake is unbelievably bad, and some people make a bunch of small mistakes that lead to something incredibly bad.
Yep.
If you make a bunch of small mistakes over a period of time and it becomes a behavioral action, I'm probably going to let you go.
Yep.
Because at this point, I can't change that behavior.
No.
Especially if I've coached you through your mistakes. Now, if you're generally a very good person and you do your job very well and your mistakes are scarce, here's something, there's something, but not, everyone makes mistakes. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I'm not going to throw you under the bus even if you're the other guy. I'm going to take accountability and responsibility wherever things happen. Right? But that's leadership.
Yeah. It affects everything. My very dear friend works in the world of leadership. She definitely is a leadership expert. And every time we have conversations about things, it always will come back to leadership or culture in an organization. And it is so true. Like if there's a blame culture or if leadership have no idea what's going on, they haven't realized cyber's their responsibility and made it their duty to learn what they need to learn. Sometimes I think, boy, oh boy, there's so many, not things to fix, that's not right, but so many adjustments that we need to make in all areas of business so that we can actually become a cyber safe world. It's like a goal.
But is that real, or is that just a impossible goal set by people trying to sell technology in order to continue and get their customers to spend money? So,
but yeah, there would be people who would do that, absolutely. But I think there's also a lot.
Can we be a cyber safe world? No, we can't. As long as the world's on the internet. Okay. Can we be a cyber prepared world?
Well, it's like saying to someone, here's the car, here's the keys, off you go. Yeah, but I don't know how to drive. You'll work it out. We don't allow, I mean, I get annoyed that there's not even, like, when you get a device for the first time, you actually should be able to say this is the first time this person's had a mobile device, and they should have to go through an induction training on their mobile device to keep them cyber safe. That could be a multi-million-dollar company idea right there.
No, it's not. It's a very, very bad idea, because most consumers, when they get a mobile device, sorry, JJ, sorry to break you down.
No, I know.
No,
you're not wrong.
Let me tell you something, all right? And it's kind of my rant. All right, I've had a few of those today. So
it's been good. Sneezing rants, love it.
So I'll say this. Okay. The idea of a cyber safe world is an illusion of an oasis in a desert.
So what can we do then?
There's several things you have to do in an environment where the threat landscape is so large and the threat actors are so many that it requires a joint it requires a bunch of different actions. One is retaliation. Yep. So if we developed a mechanism that essentially allows companies in a cyber investigation across different countries to extradite those people for cybercrime done, meaning almost like an international,
like Interpol, but for cyber.
Interpol does do cyber though, right?
Okay.
But the challenge with Interpol is Interpol can only enforce laws that are in the books of 2 nation states. So, for example, if you're, I'll give you a prime example. If you're from the Gulf states, right, for welching on a debt, you can go to jail. That's not the case in Australia. If you welch on a debt, you don't go to jail for that. So when a Gulf nation, let's say, issues an international arrest warrant for someone for welching on a debt, Interpol can go we can't enforce that because the law isn't the same in both nations.
Okay, so there needs to be a global law in relation to proven cyber crime to be able to do and punish
the cyber criminals. So you got to create something to fear.
Yeah.
Right? There has to be something where the person who's sitting behind the keyboard goes, holy smokes, the risk is too great on this one. Forget it, I'm walking away.
Yep.
For nation states, there's got to be an international coalition. I'm all for sanctions on Russia and China, North Korea, and tightening the sanctions on Iran even more for their cyber activities and for their malign cyber activities. I think every time China does a cyber activity that is malign, that we should enforce sanctions or limit the amount of visas we allow for people out of China to do this, and create a detractor not only from the government level, but from a population level, especially in nations that are run by communist regimes like China and Russia.
Yep.
Right? I'm writing an article on Substack right now that essentially says to detract Russia and China from cyber crime, we should reduce the number of visas we give their citizens every single year in response to every cyber attack. So for every successful contributed cyber attack that we get in the US, we should issue 10,000 less visas a year.
That's not bad. So while the governments are doing that, there's still my ideal rose-colored glasses, whatever you want to do. But I'm still going to work hard towards doing my best to make sure that we can. Again,
but it takes a lot of different things. One, you've got to create a downside for the cyber criminals, right? So, like the way you get someone to not rob a bank is by understanding that if I rob this bank, I stand to make X amount of dollars, but I also stand to go to jail for 20 years if I get caught.
Yes, you're right. And the other thing is we all walk around with these devices. We all have this stuff, James, and it's not like we all own a bank, so we're all at risk of being robbed. We actually are at very high risk being connected these days. And I don't think it's okay that governments and larger organizations just refuse to understand the facts that have been proven over and over and over and over and over again. The majority of ways that people are getting into these systems is by humans who have made an error. And usually it's because they don't know, they're not aware. And they're human, so they could be brilliant and know it all and, be in cyber and know how to spot everything, and they get caught because they're human and they click or they do something they shouldn't. But it has been proven that the percentage is so great for human error. And yet, as a nation, as a country, as a globe, we are just not doing enough. And it doesn't take a lot. That's what it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
I get your cyber safe haven kind of oasis. And
I know it won't
you're right about the human element.
Yeah.
Even part of my plan is, you got to educate a population, right? To not fall victim to this, because irregardless of the threat, there still be cyber criminals out there trying to do it, right? Like, even though there's a risk of going to jail, someone is still going to try to rob a bank. Now that number goes down significantly lower, because of the threat of punishment when
I agree.
or if caught. So let's start with that, right? So now we've talked about kind of like the create reasons why not to do cybercrime. Now, what's the second thing that needs to happen? Hold organizations accountable to creating faulty products.
Yep.
So if you buy a car and the car has a faulty airbag, and you happen to get into a car accident and you get overly injured because of that faulty airbag,
yes,
you have a lawsuit, there's a recall, and there's a penalty.
Correct.
Create the same incentive for technology organizations.
Because that's been created in the car industry. They spend more time testing in safety environments to make sure that when it does get released, there's not going to be that issue. And if they find a fault in the airbag, they will recall all of those things to get it fixed. Absolutely.
We call that patching.
Good one. I like that.
The challenge with patching.
We call that patching.
We do. We call that patching, right? There's every Tuesday, right? We have Patch Tuesday. The first Tuesday of every month. That's, Microsoft just released 4 Exchange server 0 days that have been under attack by Chinese groups for a really long time in Exchange servers, right? So Patch Tuesday. What do? That's the day of recalls and upgrades. When we don't take our car to the shop, we hit update on our networks, on our computer systems. I know we're over time, but I don't really care. We'll finish here in a few minutes, folks.
That's so good.
But you've got patching, right? But you got to hold companies accountable for deploying a faulty product.
Yes.
Right? So if you're knowingly deploying a faulty product, knowing that you haven't done the security testing, the Q&A, and now you compromise the data or the security of the people who use your service and who pay to use your service, there should be some level of punishment of, I don't know if I want to say punishment. I don't know if that's the right word.
Consequences. No,
but there should be some consequence. There should be something there. If it's faulty.
If I buy a smart fridge and it has the ability to go online and I can control things and create ice and do weird things from my phone to my fridge, that means that fridge is technically a hackable device. It is a endpoint and a point of entry for a cyber criminal. So if I haven't put the correct information on that fridge to say, change the password of this fridge if you're going to connect it to your Wi-Fi, because these things could happen if you don't. We've put all these other things in there to make sure we can protect it. But what happens at the moment is you buy the fridge and you install it and you have no idea of the danger. No idea at all. The kids, the baby monitors, same thing. Just put a warning on it and put some secure by design elements in that device. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So that's number, and the final thing is beyond consumer education, right? Is consumer marketplace for security. So in the US, we're starting to see that with the telecoms. So a very big telecom in the US, AT&T, and now has an AT&T cybersecurity. And their predominant marketplace is the small to mid-sized businesses. So they acquired Alien Vault, turned Alien Vault into AT&T cybersecurity. And now when you're a small business and you use AT&T, they'll come, and when they come to install your internet, they'll also they can put in a firewall. They can monitor the firewall. They'll manage your Office 365. They'll manage your endpoints for you. Yep. All part of your cable bill.
Well, so that's how it should be. That's good.
But it becomes a little bit more manageable. But it's going to take more. Verizon's trying to do the same thing here in the States and so forth. But the same can be done anywhere, right? Can some of these bigger companies create a product that's affordable enough within a good business model, right? It's harder for a small startup to go and address the small market because the ticket size just isn't there for their investors. It's much easier for these bigger companies to acquire a bunch of technology companies because they're saying if we charge an extra $100, but we have millions of customers, we still make more money. Like our ROI is 2 years down the road, but it gives us a market differentiator. We could win more business. It allows us to upgrade and generate more revenue from existing clientele and so forth. So that's part of what needs to happen as well. I think you're going to start to see something very interesting, by the way. We're going to start to see big, I just did a podcast with Anton Chovkin yesterday from Google. And we were talking about cloud security. Yep. And he kind of teased around the idea that Google's cloud platform is essentially going to make it so that there's no way for you to build on the cloud without taking security into account.
Good.
Right? And that's one of the things he talked about yesterday. And I went, oh, that's brilliant. That's magnificent. Think of a startup that, that's the way to do it.
Yep. And I think that I'm looking at it from a different element of a business is to say, if you start a new project, if you start a new strategic plan, if you start a new whatever it is there an element in there that says cybersecurity considerations? So that every single thing we do has to have cybersecurity in the conversation. It could be NA, because you could have a cafe in your place of work that doesn't need any cyber considerations. However, you could be looking to do a brand new project for your customers, which means there are a lot of cybersecurity considerations that need to take place. So cloud security, can't do it if you don't consider cyber and how you're going to protect it. And in business, if you're doing a project or whatever it might be, you have to consider cyber, and it must be in there as a non-negotiable. Just like, who do you need to do this? What cyber considerations are there? Off soapbox. Yeah. This has been a really good chat, James.
Yeah, we got one more question here. I want to I got privately, so I'm going to keep this one anonymous. This came directly into my inbox. Someone who's watching live. So the question is, we're going back to our topic, the cybersecurity skills shortage. And so the question is, how, what are ways that I can become noticed if I'm trying to break into cybersecurity beyond just applying for jobs?
Yep, good question.
What do you think, JJ?
Know what you want to do. What's your point of difference? And have some questions ready for yourself. So when you go in for that job, or you think, all right, I'm going to apply for these things, as James mentioned, do your research. Make sure you have an idea of what it is you want to do. What are your skills? Just your general skills. What are you good at? and how do they apply to a role in cyber? Because we're not all the same. We all have different things that we do better, or we like doing better, or things we just do not like doing. If it's attention to detail, what can I do with that? If it's being creative and being a thought leader, what can I do with that? If it's want to be in the leadership role of management, have a look at where those skills are. Then get some examples, some roles that you can align to say, yes, I could do all of that. There are a few things I can't do. People don't hire you because you can do everything there. They hire you for your potential to do everything there. So, step into the opportunity to say, well, why not, more than I can't. That's not always easy to say rather than do, but, I've done it myself. It does work. Back yourself and find a mentor, someone like James, who you can say, look, this is what I'd like to do. What do you reckon?
Love that. So I would say a few more things to do. I am all for your cover letter for your job application being a video.
Yes. I like that idea.
60-second video. Humanize yourself beyond a piece of paper.
Yep.
Highlight your personality. That's number one. I did that in January with one candidate. She posted the video on Thursday night. By Friday afternoon, she already had a job offer.
Wow.
We live in think of everyone who's watching right now. What are you watching us on? Do a video.
Yeah.
Put it on LinkedIn. Say, hi, my name is James. I'm looking for work.
Yep.
These are my skills. I'm looking to be part of a great organization. I'm looking for a mentor to help guide me through this. Here's where I see myself in 5 years. And here's why you should consider me to work in your organization. And put it on LinkedIn and tag it 2021 and 2021. Tag this and tag me in it. But this hashtag, tag me in it. I will share it.
And the other thing, if you're concerned with video, because sometimes that's incredibly daunting for people, we've just seen Clubhouse go from strength to strength, from millions to millions, week on week on. Audio is as powerful. So even if you have a photo of yourself or something, do some audio and send that in. At least It's not just words.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I'm more for video on that one. I'll have to disagree with you slightly,
but
JJ.
If you really can't do video.
Well, I think everyone's got a smartphone with a camera. You don't have to do in a studio setting. You can do this
twice
and go, hey everyone, nah. And the reason I say that is because that's how you break through the noise. One, be part of LinkedIn discussions, right? So join a bunch of things on LinkedIn. Post recruiters, you won't believe it or not, but believe this or not, but a lot of HR and hiring managers, they'll go look at your social media history. So if you're not very active on social media, if you're not putting out a lot of things, they're probably less likely to consider you, especially for that mid-range role. They want to see leadership.
Yes, I do.
So if you're, I would say that's why I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn was my safe space for the last year. It remains my safe space, even though every once in a while now people start to test that line of politics in LinkedIn. Keep politics out of LinkedIn, and just focus on your professional development and being a part of a community and a network.
Yep.
And with that being said, JJ, take us away on this week's show. Let's wrap up.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure to have your company with us today on the other side of cyber. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss out. We don't want hashtag FOMO going on. And remember the very special hashtag 22. Sorry, let's start that again. Hashtag 221 in 2021. That is really hard to say. For your opportunities if you do want to get into cyber, and James can help you out. So I'm Jacqueline Jane, JJ, the other side of the world on the other side of cyber. And we also have the lovely James
Azar. Hey, all right, guys. So thank you so much for watching today's show. We are live every single week right here on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So you'll want to tune in. Definitely some great stuff. Make sure to connect with both myself and JJ on LinkedIn. If you haven't done so, connect with us privately on LinkedIn. The Other Side of Cyber is also on YouTube on its own page or under the CyberHub podcast YouTube page and under the Other Side of Cyber playlist, so you can catch that, and you can catch all the other CyberHub podcast content that's there as well. Every subscribe and every viewing hour helps get us closer to our goal.
And we're on Clubhouse as well every Monday night Australian time.
Monday night, 10 p.m. in Aussie land. We are on Clubhouse. So if you're not following, JJ, what's your username on Clubhouse?
I am at Jacqueline Jane or JJ. You'll find me for both.
I am at James Azar on Clubhouse, so you can follow us there. I'll probably be spending next few hours on Clubhouse too, so you'll be able to maybe catch me in some rooms that we're together, or just start a private room and we'll be hanging out as well. So for all of those watching, all of those tuning in, thank you again. We appreciate you tuning in, watching, and for your support and comments, definitely. And we'll see you again next week, folks. Until then, stay cyber safe.
Bye, guys.